Welcome aboard, friends. Do you know I do a live show every week? Yeah, it's on Facebook. It's on your internet. Just go to knowthecause.com. We tell you about it a few days in advance, and then you can go live, ask me questions, and so forth. Well, we had a couple of great questions a few weeks ago, and I'm going to be answering those toward the end of the show. The opening of the show, what supplements do fungi hate? Okay, let's talk about that. Then autoclaving. I need to teach you a little bit about that. Of course, Lindsey is here in the kitchen with the Dirty Dozen. She wants to talk with you about, Nurse Jenny Hrbacek. Is there a link between stress and cancer? And then finally today, does fungus cause diabetes? All that and a whole lot more. You're going to love today's show on Know the Cause. My name is Doug Kaufmann. For the past 40 years, I've dedicated my life and even my career to finding the root cause of disease. Join me in a team of physicians, pharmacists, and scientists, and soon you too will know the cause. I worked clinically for many, many years, and so many of the patients would come in to see the doctors and me, and they would say, I really think I have an inflation problem. Yeah? If you live in America right now, you might. Are you meaning inflammation problem? Do you remember the cover of Time magazine here 15 years ago where it said, finally, we've discovered the cause of Alzheimer's and heart disease and cancer. It's inflammation. Folks, figure out the inflammation and you'll figure out the cause. It's not the secondary, ouch, it hurts. It's what causes that ouch, it hurts. So let's talk a little bit about inflammation, okay? How about the fungus link? We go right to that. Do you remember this word, aflatoxin? Aflatoxin has a series of subspecies, aflatoxin B1, aflatoxin G1, and so forth. Here, I'll read this and then go over with you. Aflatoxin D1 or G1 induce chronic lung inflammation, swelling of the lung in mice 3 and 6 months after they injected this mycotoxin into them. One of the first studies to show that oral administration of aflatoxin G1 could induce chronic lung swelling, which may provide a pro-tumor microenvironment to contribute to lung tumorigenesis. What that means, by the way, is we inject a mycotoxin into these mice and they get lung cancer, but they also get lung swelling. Mycotoxins, therefore, induce swelling or inflammation, boom booms inside the body, okay? And we've known this for a long time. It's not only the lungs, this swelling can take place anywhere. As a matter of fact, one study showed that the C-reactive protein that doctors measure inflammation inside your body goes up when you have a systemic fungal disorder. No doubt your inflammation, your weight gain, your hurting, and so forth has to do with fungus very often, okay? Aflatoxin, the mycotoxin, by the way, let me just sidebar here a little bit. Plant-derived antifungals, plant-derived antimycotics is a book. This, if you have $300 sitting around, it's very laborious, it's a tough book, but it's got all the plants, onion, garlic, etc., oregano, all the things that have antifungal properties. Just a great book. So the mold is called Aspergillus, and one of the poisons it makes is called aflatoxin, be it G1, B1, etc. We humans are exposed to mold and the mycotoxin in our food supply, especially when we eat cereals, corn, peanuts, all of which are not allowed on our phase 1 diet. Is your breakfast cereal and toast causing your inflammation and your pain? Wouldn't shock me at all, because years ago when I worked clinically, as I opened this segment with, I would tell people, look, let's try going off all grains. 40 years ago, I was called a quack when suggesting that maybe we Americans don't need grains. Today, there's 100 best-selling books talking about the no-grain diet, okay? I was there first, but here's what I know that the book writers don't know today. Grains are sometimes impregnated with poisons called mycotoxins. What they're saying is, well, grains convert to glucose, and that pumps up the pancreas and a lot of... Look, if you don't know mycotoxins, you don't know nutrition. Okay, so here we have is your breakfast cereal causing your problems. The no-brainer Doug Kaufmann diet, eat what fungus doesn't eat. Boy, is that simple. Fungus is a parasite, it must eat. Supplements that hate, or that fungi hate. vitamins, minerals, herbs, omega-3 fatty acids, homeopathic remedies, spices, citrus oils, essential oils. These all have, or most of them have, antifungal properties. So many people have told me, look, for 20 years I've taken supplements and I feel great and I haven't aged like everybody else my age. Folks, they're taking antifungals. And if they're eating a diet that's grain-free and corn-free and mushroom-free and potato-free, that probably has much to do with their slow aging process also, okay? And finally, let's take a look at this. Here we have the kneecap out there on the left, and then a knee joint where the bones come together. The red, the inflammation you see blinking off and on there, is definitely inflammation. The doctor would say, yeah, that's very definitely inflammation, but what causes it? So what you're learning right now in this study is something that doctors don't know. That yeast can be in there. Remember the book that said yeast can grow anywhere in the human body except the teeth. So yeast can be in there inducing swelling. When you swell, there are nerve endings there. It pushes on them and you can't bend your knee. You feel horrible. You feel out of control. It's time you need to know the cause. It's just time. You've got to figure that out. Change your diet. Phase 1 diet for a month. Feeling better? You knew the cause. Many years ago, I looked at a book called Gravity's Rainbow, written by Thomas Pynchon. And on the cover of the book, I didn't peruse it, I looked at it. On the cover of the book was written, if they can get you asking the wrong questions, then they never have to provide an answer. And I think so often in medicine, we're hurried through that doctor's office or through that exam. And because really, guys, you have to understand, you're one of 30 he's got to see today, right? So he doesn't mean to be impersonal. He and his staff don't mean to be impersonal, but very often it is, okay? And there's something that came to mind. I read an FDA story here just recently, the end of 2015, where it said that it was reprimanding a company that does autoclaving. Now, for those of you who never worked in an operating room, autoclaving in a dental office, autoclaving is how we sterilize instruments, right? They go into those little picks. They don't throw them away and get a new $80 pick. They sterilize them. And so I was reading about this just in awe that we send all these instruments out. Operating rooms and hospitals used to do this on their own, but I guess now they ship it all out to an independent to do it. And the FDA is upset because this company is putting people's health at risk because the risk of infection. If you don't get all the bacteria and fungus off those tubes, you got problems. And so the FDA was bringing this to everyone's attention. Well, it was just a few years before, in 2011, those of you watching the show may have heard this. Some medical devices, say the FDA, are reused many times in common surgical and diagnostic procedures, and they have been for years. Instruments like clamps and forceps, endoscopies like bronchoscopes and colonoscopies, used to visualize the inside of our body. The FDA has received reports of patients being exposed to microscopic amounts of blood, body fluids, and tissue from other patients that may have occurred because the reusable devices were inadequately reprocessed and those contaminants were not removed. Now that scares me, but it scares me for many reasons. We don't know, and please don't use this show to make your final opinion. If this is as much exercise as you've had all week, going from the chair to the couch and pushing the button to change the channel, I might get a regular physical. If you follow the standard American diet and you eat out of boxes and cans, no harm, no foul. I'm sure I did that for years. But I'm just telling you, if you're fueling your body that way and lack of exercise, then please visit a doctor every 6 months or a year, get blood tests done and make sure you're okay. I think that's important to do, right? And I think you know that's important to do too. And as we age, things start falling apart. Oh, my aching back. Ooh, I can hardly open my hands and so forth. Those are good times to see a doctor. But these screening procedures, like a colonoscopy, didn't that kind of blow your mind? That maybe bacteria, maybe viruses, maybe fungus is left on those tubes. When I was in Vietnam, we used to clean endotracheal tubes, right? We'd reuse them. Those tubes that you put the gas in the guy's body. So you'd put the endotracheal tube way down in here and then hook up the gas to it. So you'd anesthetize them with those gases. Well, we reuse those endotracheal tubes, and we had a little silver autoclave, chrome autoclave there that we do it. Now here's the take-home message, folks, for all of us who know the cause. Bacteria really doesn't scare me. Sterilization will take care of bacteria. And to the extent that viri are so tiny that they can breach the nucleus of a cell and get into the DNA, even they arguably are all cleared out by autoclaving, so that doesn't scare me. But let me be clear here. Mold, hundreds of species now of fungus and mold are known to make byproducts, and what are they called? Good for you, mycotoxins, right? Whereas you can boil the rice and boil the pasta and have absolutely amazing fungus-free, bacteria-free rice or pasta. If those fungi on the pasta, if they were there in the first place, or on the rice, have degraded already and spewed their mycotoxins within that wheat or within that rice, you're eating them. You're getting a small dose of mycotoxins. Remember that fungus are not heat stable. Mycotoxins are. And what that means is when you put that colonoscopy tube into an autoclave, the fungus and the bacteria and the virus is gone. But the mycotoxins may stay on that tube because it's heat stable. You can light a match and it won't burn the mycotoxins. They're staying there. Always talk with your doctor before you begin procedures. Ask him or her, what do you know about fungus on these tubes? You'll always hear, oh, it's no big deal, and they're right. The fungus isn't. Study mycotoxins. Don't go away, I'll be right back with more.
Eating fresh produce is one of the very best ways to get nutrients to support optimal health. However, when it comes to buying produce, going 100% everything organic can be very expensive. The good news is that you really don't need to buy all organic produce, but there are certain ones that you probably should consider really buying organic all the time. A good rule of thumb when buying organic is to think of the fruits and vegetables that have thin skins. These guys have less protection from the harmful pesticides and chemicals that can more easily penetrate through that skin into the fruit or vegetable. Pesticides can have real health risks, especially for children and those with health concerns. According to studies, this list of the Dirty Dozen has the highest pesticide load when grown conventionally, making them the most important to buy organic versions or to grow them organically yourself. You've heard of the Dirty Dozen. Well, we found 9 of them on the Phase 1 diet that you should buy organic. They are green apples, strawberries, celery, spinach, sweet bell peppers, cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, hot peppers, and blueberries. Now, the decision is always yours, of course, but having this information is just good for you and your family.
Now, major trauma and cancer. Is there a link? Nurse Jenny Hrbacek believes so. Watch this.
Hi, I'm Jenny Hrbacek with the Cancer Connection. Did you know that most people who get a diagnosis of cancer have experienced a major traumatic event prior to that diagnosis? The manner in which we handle stressful events can make a huge impact on our health. The constant release of stress hormones trigger a cascade in the body that, among other things, decreases the immune system and opens the door to cancer. There's no stressful event that's worth sacrificing your health. Don't suffer quietly. Reach out for help, forgive others, and love yourself. For Know the Cause, I'm Jenny Hrbacek.
I want to take just a segment, 5 minutes, 6 minutes today, and educate you a little bit more on fungus. Folks, it's a very, very deep field. I see why they don't teach it in medical school, because I think for many it's more difficult than pharmacology itself, which is very, very difficult, chemistry course. Fungus, crazy, crazy field. I remember reading a research paper a short time ago that said 27 people who had been clinically diagnosed with lung cancer and radiologically. So they got the x-rays, right? Then the doctor felt around, looked, and did their biopsies and so forth. 27 people had lung cancer. As it turns out, they had a type of fungus in their lungs called aspergillosis, or aspergillus, that causes aspergillosis, a systemic infection of that fungus. And then they form in balls called aspergillomas, right? And so these were misdiagnosed. All 27 got better on antifungal drugs. And I have to ask, how rare is cancer misdiagnosis? Okay, let's study just aspergillus today, very quickly. Aspergillus fungus, it has two characteristics. It eats dead or decaying vegetation, and it lives on board in our own tissues. It's a parasite, right? Causes diseases in many crops, especially corn, but other grains as well. It makes the poison and cancer-causing mycotoxin aflatoxin. It causes aspergillosis infections of the lung and sinuses. Aspergillomas are fungus balls that can invade the lungs and other human cavities. 3 species are commonly seen, but isn't that interesting? So an aspergilloma can form in the lung after you breathed aspergillus or maybe eaten a lot of corn. You know where I'm going with this, right? There are 3 common species. One is called fumigatus, most common form of invasive aspergillosis. It can disseminate, it runs through the bloodstream and makes aflatoxin and gliotoxin, which interrupts the function of our white blood cells. I wonder how many people have been diagnosed with white blood cell diseases, leukemia, etc., and end up wondering if they have a fungal infection or leukemia. A very dangerous fungus linked to many health problems. Typically lives in the soil and in moldy buildings where it becomes inhaled. Okay, that's just one. And that's just one fungus. And it makes several mycotoxins, several poisons. There are lots of fungi out there that are pathogens to man that cause disease in man. Then there's flavus, okay, Aspergillus flavus, found in stored grains. It can invade your arteries, eyes, sinuses, lungs, or brain, causes infarction, it's called tissue death, produces the genotoxic carcinogen called aflatoxin. It can cause hepatitis, liver cancer, and immune system suppression. Wait a minute, if a fungus causes liver cancer, is it really liver cancer or is it liver fungus? Should every liver cancer patient first go on antifungal drugs and our phase 1 diet to see if you can starve it and kill it? I think so, but folks, our oncologists today don't go that way. They don't know anything about this fungus, okay? The final one is Aspergillus niger. Aspergillus niger is used to make high fructose corn sweeteners. Beano and citric acid used in soda, right? That's so interesting. Associated with the tinnitus, hearing loss, hair loss, skin conditions, abdominal pain, vomiting, and acid reflux. This is a tough mold, tough fungus, okay? Aspergillosis. It causes an aspergillus is the name of it. And finally, how are we exposed to this? Cereal and other grains, especially corn. High fructose corn sweeteners and soda pops that have HFCS in it. Soil. Have you been gardening? You've been out gardening and now you find yourself sick, you can't breathe, you got COPD or asthma? Could it have been in the soil? You picked up some aspergillus. This is not rare. Accurately diagnosing it is extremely rare. I'm a FUPO head. Fungus until proven otherwise. I wish every breathing problem would go to a doctor and say, give me some antifungals, I want to take a month, I'm going to change my diet, follow Kaufmann's phase 1 diet, and see if I don't get fixed with your antifungal. Buildings that have leaked, and especially in the immunocompromised population. I don't believe that, but I always say that. I think if you're commonly exposed to fungus, I don't think you need to be immunocompromised because it's going to make you immunocompromised. If you suspect aspergillus, find a doctor who will prescribe systemic antifungals. Go on our diet, our phase 1 diet. Use natural antifungals like caprylic acid, oregano, vitamin C, olive leaf, etc. Healing takes time. It can take many months to heal. It took you a long time to get sick. Sweat, sauna, chlorophyll. There are so many natural approaches, folks. We rush to a doctor, and I would too if I had breathing problems or I had a big thing in my lung, right? I'd get to a doctor too. But boy, they're going one direction. They're going to start you on medication or surgery. Ask the doctor if you have a couple of months to investigate whether or not a mold like aspergillus might have contributed to this health problem, your breathing problem or your lung problems. So glad you joined us today. Tell your friends about Know the Cause. Help me disseminate this good news. I'll be right back with you. Okay, now a couple of great questions that came off of Facebook a few weeks ago. And by the way, join us every week. I do a live 1-hour show. Come on in and join the thousands that want to take part of this live. First question, my breathing keeps me from exercise. What do you suggest? Would a sauna help? Kim, what you want to do is get to the point where you can strenuously exercise and not have, the problem that you're having with your breathing. Okay, remember, this is exercise. This is exercise. So go light until you can figure out what this is. Look, I put a mold plate in my house. One of the most common reasons people can't breathe is because they're inhaling mold in their house. Put a Petri dish out, $12 at Lowe's or Home Depot, and see if you've got fuzzy stuff growing in your house. Then call the landlord or call the insurance company or get that fixed. Put a Pioneer in the unit and see if you don't breathe much easier. Thereby, you can do more exercise. Next question comes from Arlene. Oh, this is good. I read this the other day. With God's help, you have helped cure my diverticulosis if it can be cured. At least it hasn't flared up in a few months. Can you recommend a way to lower my white blood count? Would the diverticulosis be the cause of the high count? Doctors cannot find anything wrong with me. I hear this every week. I heard it from a guy who runs a restaurant out here the other day when I went in to grab a bite to eat. Gee, my white count went up. Folks, white counts go up to defend the body. These are little boxers, and God made your body perfectly, right? So when you get an infection, white blood cell population goes up, okay? So just know diverticulosis is a sac problem. Doctors don't know the cause of it, what causes the sac. But I'll tell you this, we now know that fungus causes polyps in the nose, right? And so it builds sacs. Could they build in other tissues, the intestines, the lungs? You bet they can. And here's the giveaway. Your white count is up and you have a disease that doctors don't know the cause of. Folks, let's get back to common thinking instead of all these polysyllable words. I think what makes a white count go up? An infection. 100% of doctors would say, well, only bacteria can do that, and they'd put you on an antibiotic. What if it's fungus? It too makes the white count go up. I think the diverticulosis, and in a chapter in my first book, The Fungus Link, we talked about this, gut problems and fungus. Fix the fungus. Probiotics, a changed diet, lots of water, etc. Fix that and watch what happens to that white blood count when you normalize and take care of the infection that may in fact be causing your diverticulitis. Folks, God bless you. I'll see you next time. Thanks for telling your friends about Know the Cause.